The Innovators Network.
Welcome to the Killer Innovation Show, the longest continuously produced podcast in history. Each week, Phil McKinney brings you the insights and strategies to amplify your creativity and innovation skills. Here's your host, Phil McKinney.
Welcome to this week's Killer Innovation Show. This week's show is in response to a question that I got in a recent speech I was given. This always happens. When I'm out talking, I love to take Q&A at the end of a talk. In this case, I got this question, and it's actually a pretty common question that I get, particularly when I'm speaking outside of Silicon Valley, when I'm not in California. Now, let's keep in mind, I have not lived in Silicon Valley now going on 10 years since I retired and relocated to Colorado. But I travel there a lot. I have staff there. In fact, I was just there 2 weeks ago for some activities. But when I'm speaking around the country and around the world, this is the one question that I always get, and I thought it would make a good episode of the show. The question is, what's the secret to Silicon Valley's success? What's that secret? What's that thing that I can learn that will allow me to be successful, whether it's in your organization, your business, your career, or for your region, the town you live in, the state you live in? What's the secret that's in the valley that can be transported, that you can apply to your own activities? That is the topic for today's show. But before we hop into that, get that favor to ask, follow, like, and share. Follow us on social media. Like this episode, give us a review, rank us, give us feedback. We always are anxious to look and greatly appreciate any feedback you give to us. And that could be also topics that you would like to hear covered on the show. And then share it. If there's something in this episode that you think somebody else would really benefit from, share it with them. Send them the link to the page, point them over to killerinnovations.com. Or you can also point them now over to theinnovators.network, which not only has all of my content, my writings, the podcast, my videos, everything is there, but there's also other contributors such as Kim McNicholas, an Emmy Award-winning reporter, journalist from Forbes, is now producing a podcast called The Heart of Innovation over at the Innovators Network. So you want to go check those out. So you can send them the links, find the content, point them to the sites, let them know, share what we are doing here with who you think can have impact, and we could share and hopefully help them on their innovation path. So again, today we're going to talk about the secret to Silicon Valley success. So let's hop in to this week's episode.
This episode is sponsored by Zoom. With Zoom, you can streamline your communication, collaboration, and creativity all in one place. Zoom is the market-leading platform that provides video meetings, voice, webinars, and chat across desktops, phones, tablets, and conference room systems. To learn more about Zoom and sign up for your free account, visit killerinnovations.com/Zoom.
Whenever I'm speaking outside of California, I can usually expect an audience question about Silicon Valley, such as, what's the secret to Silicon Valley's success? After all, this region is home to some of the most successful and innovative companies in the world. People want to know what it is about Silicon Valley that makes it so successful, and they're eager to learn any tips or tricks that they can use to bring that level of success to their own businesses or back to their regions. Now, if it only were that easy. The truth is, there's no one secret to Silicon Valley's success. Rather, it's a combination of factors that have come together to create the perfect environment for innovation and entrepreneurship. Let's take a step back and take a look at the history of the valley. The history of the Silicon Valley is fascinating. Before there was silicon in Northern California, there was agriculture. The first settlers in the area were farmers, and the region was known for its fruit orchards. In the early 1900s, Santa Clara Valley was nicknamed the Valley of Heart's Delight because of the abundant fruit production. As the century progressed, the Santa Clara Valley became increasingly industrialized. During World War II, the region's companies produced materials for the war effort. And after the war, the area's economy shifted to a focus on high tech. This change was due in part to the presence of Stanford University, which attracted talented scientists and engineers to the area. Silicon Valley got its name from the silicon chip manufacturers that were once based there. In the 1950s and 1960s, several major technology companies were founded in Silicon Valley, going all the way back to 1938 when Hewlett-Packard placed its position right on Addison Avenue in the old HP garage, now named as the birthplace of Silicon Valley. At that time, the area was known for its startup culture, or for risk-taking and innovation. It was fostered by the region's many venture capitalists. In recent years, Silicon Valley has faced some challenges. Economic recessions, the cost of living, competition from other regions have led to a decline in the proportional number of startups being founded in Silicon Valley. There have also been a number of cornerstone companies that have moved their headquarters out of the valley, and this includes Tesla, SpaceX, Oracle, and yes, even Hewlett-Packard Enterprise. However, the region's culture and philosophy remain strong, and it continues to be a leader, albeit a shrinking leader, in technology innovation. Now, the core is the innovation culture of Silicon Valley. This culture and environment really encourages breakthrough and radical innovations. So, what are some of the elements for this regional culture? First off, in Silicon Valley, failure is seen as an opportunity to learn and to grow. The region's many venture capitalists are willing to take risks with new and innovative ideas, and the region's entrepreneurs are willing to experiment and take risks in order to achieve success. Also in the valley, it's easier to secure funding for your next idea after a failure than it is to get your first round of funding. Why? It's because you learned through those failures, and the venture capitalists will back those learnings. The region is also known for its culture of openness and collaboration. Unlike other business regions where companies compete fiercely with one another and they keep everything confidential, in Silicon Valley it is common for companies to share ideas and resources in order to create the best products and services possible. In addition, Silicon Valley is home to some of the world's best universities, which are a source of critical talent and innovation themselves. So, what are some examples of famous inventions that came out of Silicon Valley? Now, over the years, there's been many groundbreaking innovations. The key here is commercially successful. Not everything you try will be a commercial success. While most of these ideas did not originate in the valley, it is the willingness to innovate beyond what others are doing that has made the region successful. So here are just some examples of the famous inventions that came from Silicon Valley. First up, the personal computer. Now, the personal computer did not start in the valley. Technically, it started in Arizona. The personal computer is one of the most famous inventions, though, that became a commercial success out of the valley. The commercial versions of that was first developed in the early 1970s by a team at Xerox PARC, or the Palo Alto Research Center, which is in Silicon Valley. It quickly became popular in Silicon Valley thanks to its ability to help people work faster and more efficiently, but they were still extremely rare. In the 1980s, Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak helped to bring the personal computer to the mainstream, and they helped make it become the essential tool it is today. Next up, GPS. The global positioning system is a technology that has revolutionized the way people navigate. Branford Parkinson, a professor of aeronautics and astronautics at Stanford, conceived the present-day satellite-based system in the early 1960s and then developed it with the U.S. Air Force. The GPS systems works by using a network of satellites that orbit the Earth. These satellites emit radio signals which are picked up by receivers on the ground. And by triangulating these signals, the receiver can determine its location on Earth. The consumer commercialization of GPS started with Hewlett-Packard's Charlie Trimble. Trimble was an engineer who became interested in using GPS for navigation after he got lost on a hike. Trimble Navigation was founded in November 1978 by Charlie and two partners from Hewlett-Packard, initially operating above a movie theater in Los Altos, California. In the 1980s, the U.S. government allowed civilian use GPS for navigation, and the technology quickly caught on. Trimble Navigation was one of the first companies to develop GPS receivers for consumers. And over the years, GPS has become increasingly accurate and widespread. And it's now used from everything from guiding planes and ships to finding our way around unfamiliar cities. GPS has even found its way into all of our pockets. Talking about pockets, smartphones. The first smartphones were developed in the early 1990s. They were large, clunky devices that were not very popular. The Nokia 9300i was the first of the smartphones that gained some traction in the market. It was released in 2003 and it ran on the Symbian operating system. Now, the Nokia did not come out of Silicon Valley, it came out of Oslo, Norway. In 2007, though, Apple introduced the iPhone, which was a game changer in the smartphone industry. It was the first smartphone to become a mainstream hit. The iPhone was a revolutionary device because it combined the features of a phone, a computer, and a camera all in one small package. The iPhone was made possible by Silicon Valley's love of innovation and its focus on integrating new technologies with the early failed concepts of others. And then, what about online search engines? Given the birth of the internet, the need to organize the explosion of information became critically important. This led to the development of search engines. While there were many early attempts to organize the web, the first true search engine I would call it really a search engine was Archie, which was developed in 1990 by Alan Emtag, then a postgraduate student at McGill University in Montreal, Canada. Archie allowed users to search for files on anonymous FTP sites. In 1996, Larry Page and Sergey Brin invented a new search engine called Backrub. Backrub differed from Archie because it used links, or more accurately, backlinks, thus the name Backrub, between websites as a measure of importance. This algorithm would later become the basis for Google's search engine algorithm. Google's dominance is because of its superior search engine algorithm. They didn't invent search engines, they just made one that was so much better. The Google dominance is that superiority of the algorithm, which ranks the websites based on their importance and relevance. So, what's the portability of this innovation culture? Could an organization or a region take this culture and do something with it? The secrets of Silicon Valley success are not really all that secret. They're not like written up and locked in a safe. You can learn them. Each element can easily be understood and applied, but what is unique is the combination of all these factors. So what are the 5 actions other regions and businesses can and should take away as learnings? 1. Have an attitude of innovation. It is important to cultivate a culture of innovation with a strong belief that new innovations can change the world for the better. This mindset encourages people to dream big, and that is what you will find in Silicon Valley. It's not the incremental, it is the big dream, the transformative, the big, hairy, audacious goal of impact. Second, encourage creativity and risk-taking. And one way to encourage creativity and risk-taking is to create an environment where it not only tolerates failure, but embraces it and even encourages it. Yes, even encouraging experiments and failures. In Silicon Valley, entrepreneurs can experiment with new ideas without any fear of reprisal, whether from family members, from bankers, from spouses. It's a completely different type of encouragement to take risks. This allows these entrepreneurs to take on risk no other entrepreneur would dream of taking to come up with these innovative solutions. Next, fund and support early stage startups. One of the key reasons that Silicon Valley has been so successful is the amount of funding and support that is available for early stage startups. This allows entrepreneurs to develop their ideas without the fear of financial insecurity. The ability to pay the mortgage, to have health insurance, all of that is taken care of by this encouragement and the availability of the dollars to support early stage companies that may not even have a finished product and may not have any customers, but there's a vision that people have bought into. In addition, there are a number of organizations in Silicon Valley that provide mentorship, networking opportunities, and even funding assistance. Next, encourage collaboration. The culture of collaboration is strong in Silicon Valley. Startups help one another by sharing resources and ideas, which contributes to their growth and success. Establishing co-working spaces and incubators is an excellent way to promote collaboration. Co-working spaces give entrepreneurs a place to work together, share ideas, have those serendipity discussions, while incubators provide support and direction for startup businesses. And next, develop a strong workforce. Silicon Valley has been able to develop such a strong workforce because it has located itself in the midst of leading research universities such as Stanford and the University of California, Berkeley. These universities help to cultivate the skills that workers need for jobs in the tech industry. Businesses and regions can replicate Silicon Valley's success by investing in education and training programs. They should also focus on developing programs that are relevant to the local economy. Now, we've been talking about Silicon Valley and all the positives, but let's be honest, it's not all good. As with any region or industry, Silicon Valley has its shares of both pros and cons. While it's home to some of the most innovative companies and has produced countless innovations, there are some things that need to change. For one, Silicon Valley is incredibly expensive to live in. The cost of living in the area is astronomical and is becoming increasingly difficult for young people to afford to live there. In addition, the high cost of housing is causing many people who grew up in the area to be displaced, which then also feeds into the growth in the homeless population. Another issue that needs to be addressed is the lack of diversity in Silicon Valley. The tech industry is overwhelmingly white and male, and this needs to change if Silicon Valley is going to continue to thrive. And finally, Silicon Valley has an attitude of elitist thinking regarding innovation that's not invented there. The quote you hear a lot is, quote, real innovation only happens in Silicon Valley, end quote. Innovation with global impact requires collaboration that extends beyond any single geographic area. This Silicon Valley thinking must change if it's going to maintain its position as a world leader in technology and innovation. So, let's wrap this all up. The innovation secrets of Silicon Valley really aren't that secret. They're actually fairly common sense. The region's been successful because it's cultivated a culture of innovation, encouraged creativity and risk-taking, supported early-stage startups. It has encouraged collaboration These are all things that businesses and regions can replicate in order to achieve similar levels of success. However, there are some areas that Silicon Valley needs to improve. It needs to address the incredible cost it takes to live there, how difficult it is to live in Silicon Valley, and it needs to foster diversity within the tech industry. In addition, Silicon Valley must learn to embrace collaboration with other regions. It can't have this elitist attitude. It has to be able to willingness and structured to collaborate beyond Silicon Valley. The first step a region or an organization should do if they want to achieve Silicon Valley-like success is they need to identify the unique strengths and resources that it has to offer. Once these assets have been identified, a plan can be developed to encourage innovation and entrepreneurship. You may not have access to all the same assets. Take an advantage of what you have. Don't try to duplicate, apply the approach to your assets that you have available to you. And by following this simple step of identify your assets and apply this innovation culture, these structures, you too can have this kind of a success. And it's not that hard to achieve. For instance, while I've spent the major portions of my career in Silicon Valley, I am a firm believer that innovation success can be achieved anywhere, literally anywhere in the world. The steps above are not meant to be prescriptive, but rather provide a general framework for how any region or organization can encourage innovation. With the right mix of the ingredients, any place can experience innovation success. So what of the items we talked about in today's show can you apply, whether it's to your organization or towards your region? Like I said, these aren't really secrets. They're more common sense, particularly if you've been listening to this show at all over the last 18 years that we've been doing the show. You've picked up on a lot of these things, but one of the elements that people tend to overlook, it is the bringing of all of those pieces together. It isn't just about do you have collaboration and do you have risk capital and do you embrace failure and not view it as a negative, right? Those are all individual pieces. What's unique about Silicon Valley is it brings these all together, and it does create a regional culture, which is unique. And so therefore, what is it that you can bring? It combines with what elements do you bring into an organization? What elements do you do maybe at a community level? What do you bring together for a regional level, whether it's a state or a multi-state region? All of these elements can be brought together and you can achieve some level of innovation success. But you have to commit to not cherry picking. Oh, we're going to focus on just culture. We're going to create this culture and we'll just assume magic happens. This is hard work. You need to bring all of these pieces together. I would encourage you, if you haven't checked it out, to check out the 7 Laws of Innovation. It's a series of blog posts that I wrote back in actually 2011. But you can find those over at philmckinney.com and you can see all of those pieces and see what happens about how do you apply those? How do you bring all those pieces together of the 7 laws? You need to bring it all together so that you have all of the pieces aligned in order to try to achieve this long-term success. So hopefully you found today's episode insightful, gives you a little bit of insight on what is positive about Silicon Valley, but also pointing out what are some of the challenges Silicon Valley is facing, things that they got to step up and really think about if they're going to maintain their leadership of being really the technological hub on a global scale. So with that, I'm going to thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule. Time is your most valuable asset. I do greatly appreciate it. Also, would love some feedback. We're mixing the shows up here a little bit with interviews, particularly if I'm off at trade shows, or I'll be at CES in January doing a series of interviews, but also these kinds of more commentary types of topics. You want more of one, more of another, you like the mix between back and forth, let us know. Also, if you have a story to tell, if you have a guest that you would recommend to be on the show, drop us a note. You can do that at phil@killerinnovations.com, or you can also drop us a note over at hello@theinnovators.network. hello@theinnovators.network. And you may have a guest that may not be appropriate or timing for my show, but it could be a guest that we would use on any of the other shows that are on the network. So drop that note. Let us know. Always looking for great guests that have great, interesting innovation stories. And with that, thank you very much for your time. Have a great week. Go out there, work on that idea, and go change the world. We'll talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.
Podcasting nonstop since 2005, this has been the Killer Innovation Show on the Innovators Network.
This show is distributed by the Innovators Network. For more information and other great shows and content, visit theinnovators.network.